The ground is warming up and the plants, well, they're romping away. This month is full of the sights and sounds of spring, and I've got loads of great ideas for your garden. Coming up, it's a busy time for birds, my April guide to feeding young fledglings. I get growing gladioli for a glorious show of blooms. The showstopper of any garden, gorgeous flowering camellias. Welcome to Step by Step Gardening with me, David Domoney at Bridgemere Show Gardens. April is a changing month really for the birds that visit our gardens. For a start off, of course, winter is over, and also the birds are nesting. In fact, April is one of the busiest times for birds in the garden. If it seems like the bird song is louder, you're probably right. Birds like robins and wrens sing out to find their mates and protect their territories. You may even have noticed some mating activity between the birds as they find their perfect partner. In April, many birds in the UK start to lay their eggs and will have their first clutches of chicks, which means the birds and their babies are hungry and you may want to help feed them. You're getting baby birds, the little fledglings as well. These fluffy chicks eat the same food as their parents, but need much smaller and softer pieces. You don't want the little fledglings choking, and that's why it's always best if you are feeding with peanuts. As you get into the spring, make sure they're in proper peanut feeders. If they're in those meshes, the bird has to peck it out and peck it into small pieces before it comes out rather than whole. Really, you don't want a whole peanut going back to a nest and choking a little bird. But also, there's a variety of other seeds that are available, slightly smaller, without coats and softer, things like sunflower hearts or even millet or kibble maize is also pretty good, mealworms as well, and they're quite light and easy for the parents to carry back to the little birds too. With winter, birds were eating high energy foods, something like fat balls where there's the fat, and also peanuts as well, which gave them energy to keep themselves warm. But of course, as we're into the spring, they've also got insects as food and caterpillars and worms, so they slightly vary their diet, and that's why it's key to make sure that there's plenty of variety of food available for the birds that visit your gardens. From green finches and goldfinches to blue tits and great tits, there are different foods that you can put out to help these lovely creatures in your garden. Let's have a look at this first one just here. This is a mix that's really favoured by those cute little finches that visit. All very small. There's also Niger seed in here, which is really rich for oil for birds as well. And if you're having bird food like this, you really need to have a very fine mesh on your bird feeder. And if you have a look on the inside there, you can see it shows you actually what birds it's for, but it's pretty good to hold in this seed. But be careful, any seed that falls out, that falls onto the ground, your seeds germinate and you end up getting bird seed weeds growing. However, if you choose a mix like this, which is larger seeds, but they have been crushed. Take a look at that. They've been crushed into fine pieces. This does two things. One, it makes it small enough for the young birds to eat. And two, because it's crushed the seed, it stops it germinating in your borders as well. There we are, no grow mix. And here's another mix here that is a combination and a variety of more crushed seed. So take a moment, spot the birds you have in the garden and choose the seed accordingly. One really important task when you're feeding birds, especially in spring with young ones, is to make sure your bird feeders are kept clean. All the activity at the bird feeder brings our feathered friends in close contact with each other, with the potential for any diseases to spread, so good hygiene is essential. Empty them of any remnants of food and loose dirt, and give them a really thorough scrub, taking them apart as much as possible to reach the nooks and crannies where bacteria can multiply. Wash with soapy water and a mild disinfectant. Rinse thoroughly in fresh water and let the feeders dry fully before filling them again. And I can't stress enough how important it is for the hygiene of the bird feeding, for the health of the little birds that visit your garden. They play such an important role, not just in the health and the biodiversity of the garden, but our mental health as well. Because seeing those little birds cheers you right up. If it's grow your own you're into, I have a summer treat for you. With the warming soil, now is a really good time of year to get started on one of my favourite fruits. A marvellous plant to add into your garden this month has to be one of the tastiest fruits I know, the humble strawberry. It's a lovely little plant. Very nice, interesting foliage and gorgeous little single flowers there. But the magic of a strawberry is you can actually see the small strawberry forming in the heart of the flower. You can see there, look at that, the baby strawberries right in the middle, just hairy and green there, that will grow into larger green strawberries and then finally turn to red. It's a beautiful plant. You buy them as young plants in the garden centre. There they are, either in a little container or you can buy packs of them like you'd buy bedding plants where there's 3 in a strip, as we call it. But these ones here you actually have to manually separate the strawberries, whether if you buy them in a pot they're generally a bit of a larger plant, so it's easier to transplant. They're real givers, strawberries. Here's one that I've got in a container. So late summer you will get what's known as a runner, which is a side bit from the plant, and along this runner there will be another baby strawberry starting to grow with its own root system, and another one here, and then they just keep growing along. If you were to put a pot underneath this strawberry young plant here, whilst it's still connected to its umbilical cord, it'll send out roots and get established, generating its own energy from its root system and foliage, but also tapping on supplement energy from the mother plant. Now, that's what you do in summertime. If you leave it to spring, they've generally rooted in the bed. Here's one that I've got here, and as you can see, that's actually grown in the bed. There's one that's come off here, and there's another one here. 3 plants! Can you believe it? Now, strawberries aren't the longest living plant, maybe about 4 years and you should replace it, but every year they will produce loads and loads of runners, which are baby plants. So I'll show you how to pot them up. Just need a spare pot, a little bit of peat-free compost in the bottom of the container. Snip off this runner here and snip off this section here that's attaching it to the mother plant, and then to the same level it is in the ground, put it into its new container. A bit more compost around there, lightly firm it into position. There we are. Look at that, a brand new plant for free. Now I'm going to show you how you can plant a strawberry pot. Now, a strawberry pot, very different from normal containers. The first thing you'll notice, there are holes around the outside, and the containers are usually pretty big, because the best thing about strawberries is if they are growing without the strawberries touching the ground, it helps keep the fruit fresh. What happens is you can grow strawberries through these holes and they cascade down, so this whole container becomes full of foliage and lovely strawberries just hanging ready for you to pick. So there's a drainage hole at the bottom. I put a couple of broken bits of terracotta there so it doesn't get blocked up, although drainage is aided through the holes here as well. And I filled it up with peat-free compost at the bottom. Now the first thing I'm going to do is plant a strawberry so it's facing out of one of these holes. Now the secret is, don't ever do this. Try and force the strawberry root side first into the container. Instead, fingers over the top, light squeeze of the bottom, and it comes out whole. And what I do is then just tease the foliage out. I've already filled up compost in the bottom of the container, right up to the bottom lip of the first level of holes. So this root is just sitting on the surface of the soil. Move around. Next strawberry. This one's a bit easier. Straight through there like that. And again, pack the compost underneath. That's all the bottom one's done. I'm now going to fill the compost up over the roots of the one that I've just pulled in, roughly to about the level of this next here that's a bit higher. Now for the next three, I'm going to show you how to separate if you buy them in a strip, and they all come out in one go. And they're almost falling apart like that. You can take one out like that, and then one like that. This is the cheaper way to buy them, but they've got a slightly smaller root run. Plant using the same method. Take care to thread the plants from the inside to the out, and firm in and add more compost. So for the top, I could put a few small ones in, but I'm actually going to put this big one right in the centre there because it's been grown on a little more and it's already producing some fruit. Now I've planted it not right at the top surface of the pot because I want to leave a bit of a gap from the top of the container down to the top of the soil. Really during summertime it helps me fill that up with water that enables it to slowly soak down through, saturating the whole container rather than just running off the top as it comes to the compost. So if you're planting anything on the surface, whether it's in a pot or it's in the ground, you really want the strawberries sitting above the ground. You don't want them actually in the dirt because it can cause rotting if it gets damp. So a really good tip, in the border or in the pot, a skirting of straw or hay, something that offers a comfy cushion for the strawberries to actually rest on, so they're not in the dirt. But it has another advantage. The straw acts as a deterrent for slugs climbing over to try and get the fruit. So it's double bubble with a bit of straw or a bit of hay. And there you have it, a strawberry pot. Place it in a sunny position. The more sun, the tastier the fruits. And together you have lovely cascading foliage, flower and fruit. Pretty and productive. Now for our plant of the month. Now roses have to be the king of flowers in the summer, but in spring the plant that really packs a punch is the camellia. Now if you are thinking about adding a camellia into your garden, and I would recommend it, they're gorgeous, this is what you get. The first thing you'll notice when you go into the garden centre is you don't have to wait a long time before it starts to flower. Look at this one here. Just the amount of buds and beautiful open flowers. Right in the heart of the flower you can see beautiful yellow colour with a white outer petals. And look just how many buds there are. In fact, it's a very good time of year to go into the garden centres to choose your variety because you can see the different colours and actually buy it in flower. Now this is a double here. Look just how many compact petals there are all in one flower. And Mary Williams down here is a single. And of course for pollinators the single ones are a lot easier to get at the pollen where it's very congested here at the double. And behind me here, this is Camellia japonica. This one here is pink perfection. And the amount of blooms, they come in waves. One finishes flowering, another bud opens. And that's the secret in keeping them looking smart, is when a flower is finished, just grab hold of the back of the bud, give it a twist, and the old flower comes off, leaving space for plenty more buds to open up. And it's not just a flower, it's also the beautiful glossy emerald green leaves. They're evergreen, so it becomes a real big backbone to the border. Now, there are different varieties that have different flowering times. There are some early flowerers. Camellia sasanqua can flower as early as November, while Camellia japonica and Camellia williamsii flower from late winter into spring. There's a difference in height too. Look at the big one behind me, but you can get smaller varieties as well that are pretty good for growing in containers. And that may help because they do have a certain preference to their soil type. They don't like it too limey. They're acid loving plants. So in your garden, if you're growing azaleas, rhododendrons or heathers and they're doing pretty well, it's a fair guide that you've got soil that's pretty good for a camellia as well. If you're a new garden, you can do a little test to find out your soil type. And in an earlier episode, we've covered this, so it's worth going back and taking a look. But if you're growing in pots, there's no worry. Pick a big container because they can get quite top heavy with all the buds. You can even put a few bricks at the bottom of the container to give it that extra weight. And then use peat-free Herbaceous compost and they'll just love it and settle in. Now, finding a spot for your camellia couldn't be easier. A sheltered site is always best and they prefer partial shade. So you'd see them in woodland areas going slightly on the outer part of the wood to get a little bit of coverage from the trees and a little bit of sunlight there. So there's bound to be a spot in your garden that's ideal for a camellia. They're also very low maintenance. You shouldn't need to prune the camellia at all. Apart from taking off the dead heads to keep the flowering looking good, they're a pretty low maintenance plant. So camellias are a really good choice for a lot of early flowering colour in your garden. They're gorgeous. I have a competition for you. We are giving away 5 gift vouchers, each worth £50. And entering is completely free. Click on the link in the description and leave a comment below about the gardening topic you'd like me to cover in a future episode. Open to UK residents only, closer than 30th of April 2026 at 11:59 PM. Terms and conditions apply. Whilst your plants are just beginning to poke their heads above the ground, it may feel odd to talk about giving them some support. But it won't be long before they're in full bloom, and it's always better to give your plants support as they're on the way up before they start falling down. So here is my plant support masterclass. Back again in the cottage garden here at Bridgemere. It's one of my favourites. Doesn't look much now, but as you can see, it's all waking up because these are all herbaceous perennials. As the plants grow, sometimes they get a bit top heavy and the stems aren't strong enough to stop them flopping over. And that's no good if you've got a pathway or a lawn. Now these are link supports and they're very handy. You insert them into the ground there, a bit further out from where your pathway is, just to give a bit of spacing. And as you can see, as you insert down, one connects in to another. And that way you've created a barrier that offers a bit of support to the plant to stop them flopping into the pathway and keep them upright and looking good. Now it's best to remember the height of the plant that you had. If it's a really tall plant, you need the support quite high up. If they're shorter, you just need to push them further into the ground like that to lower them down. So there's a bit of flexibility. The other thing to remember, of course, because they link, you can link them into shapes, curves around lawns or circular borders. It means you can adapt it to how you need it. Now in this bed here, right in the middle here, these are peonies that are coming out of the ground. Now they grow really big with the huge flowers, and the weight of it sometimes causes it to collapse. You've got an empty bit in the middle and the branches down at the side. But you can help your peonies by giving them a bit of support. You can keep them upright by holding them up from the outside using a conical frame like this, or there are grid supports. Now here you've got a grid work of metal supports, and now around the peony you just want to set each spike so the heart of the peony is right in the middle of the support, and then gently push. Doesn't matter how this frame's actually going to look, because you're not going to see it with the peony growing in. So push that down. Try and get it as close as you can to where the peonies are. Then give it a little loosen, like that, because as it grows, you can be lifting the support to help it, and keep lifting as it grows until you've got a really good framework in and the plant has grown through. So as it gets those heavy blooms and they lean back, they've got the support to stop it collapsing. The one golden rule with plant support: when the plant needs the support the most, it's too late to add it in then. What you really need to do is to put it in early so the plant grows through it and then can lean and benefit from the support. If it's already growing, it's very difficult to fit a support on. Now I'm going to demonstrate with my lilies here. Actually, I've got quite a few lilies in here. I'm going to do something different with the plant support, but I'm going to use this now just to demonstrate it for you. If I insert it just here around the lily will grow through the plant support. The foliage means you won't be able to see the support itself, but it is lending itself perfectly to holding the plant more stable. Single plant supports are useful for top-heavy plants like hollyhocks, or like alliums, which have slender stems that can break under the weight of their blooms or during strong wind. But for climbers like sweet peas, you need an entirely different sort of support. The thing with plant supports is you can make them yourself. Bamboo canes are the gardener's friends, and they have so many different uses. But for the sweet peas that I sowed earlier on, I'm going to create a framework here for them to climb up. So thick end down, thin end up, and you're going to need the right height. So when you choose one, you think, oh, that's right. But don't forget, it's actually going in the ground as well. So account for that when you're choosing. Inserting them into the ground can be unpredictable depending on how many stones are in the soil. But what I will say is wear gloves as you're forcing them down, because sometimes it's so smooth it slips, and there are some burrs on bamboo that can make quite nasty splinters. So for the sweet peas, this wigwam, I'm just going to lightly push them in so I can get the positions of where the canes are going. And don't worry if you've got one too close, you can just move it over, and that's the reason that you only do a light push to begin with. I might move that one over there a little bit to create that. So when you've got them in position, then it's time for a bit of muscle work. I'm pulling them all down so they're all roughly at the same height at the top, but they're deep enough down to be quite secure. Now, you want to group them together at the top. You've got some different options of tying it. One, you could just use garden tie. Some people use zip ties, but I don't like using one-use plastic in the garden. Or you can get these cane supports here. And whatever you're using, certainly if you're inserting, don't push them all down right at the beginning. Take them all down at the same time. There we go. Yeah, that's the top held into position. Doesn't look very nice, but there's something you can do to make it look better and also help the creatures that visit the garden. I've got a terracotta pot here with some straw in it. I'm going to turn it over at the top so it tidies it all up and looks a lot better, and of course it becomes a little dry habitat for beneficial insects. And now I'm just going to put a little bit of terracotta, you could use a stone, just over the drainage hole, stop the rain getting in. Now sweet peas will be climbing all up this, but to give them a helping hand as they are growing, rather than just having to twine around one cane, I am going to put string around it just to give them something else to grip onto as they grow. It's these simple mindful tasks of creating something on a lovely summer's day that makes the job of gardening so enjoyable. Right, I'm going to tie this off at even intervals right the way up to the top, and it won't be long before I'm planting my sweet peas in readiness for their energy to grow right to the top. In April, the length of the days jump dramatically, boosting photosynthesis in plants. That means that things start to move quickly in the garden. My projects are no exception. My potatoes in containers are starting to emerge, so I have covered the first shoots with a new layer of compost to encourage the plants to produce more spuds. And in a few weeks I'll repeat the process once the shoots have grown through this new layer. The cosmos seeds that I sowed are doing really well. Now their first true leaves are out. I've pricked them out, taking care to pick them up by the leaves and not the stems. And they are growing on under shelter in pots. And my broad beans have outgrown their first pots, and I'm potting them on for just a short spell whilst I harden them off, ready to plant out into the garden. And this month I'm adding another gorgeous summer flowering plant to my cut flower beds. This is a good month because the soil is warming up for planting in gladioli. Gorgeous flowers. Take a look at them. Many different colours. Now you could use this as a really good back border filler to give some height, but in here these are going to be my cut flower beds, and gladioli make perfect cut flowers. So you buy them in a pre-pack. This is what you get inside. Just open them up there. Loads of lovely gladioli bulb. They've got a really nice coppery finish to them. Pointy bit faces up, flat base goes down. Now it gets its name gladioli from gladius, that means sword. That's also where we get the term gladiator, sword user. But take a look, this is from my gladioli from last year. It does look like a sword. And planting them couldn't be easier. Just want to dig a hole in the soil. Now you plant them 2.5 times the height of the bulb, so about 10 centimetres, something similar to that. Give it a little twist at the bottom so the base of the corm hits the base of the soil. And then, in fact, I'm not covering that one over because I'm planting them about 10 centimetres apart, and it gives me a guide where the last one was. In a straight line here, just bed that in, little twist at the bottom, another one just here. And this bed here will be an eruption of foliage, a beautiful flower to cut and take inside the home. Gladioli aren't fully frost hardy, so don't plant them out too early. Each of these corms should produce a single flower spike, and that spike will carry multiple blooms. Here's a tip. If you plant out the corms in batches every 2 weeks from April through to early July, you'll get a rolling display from June right through to August. Just cover up here. I'm doing just half the bed because I've got plans for something on the other side later. Well, with a bit of luck, I should see some green shoots in about a couple of weeks. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I've got some good news for you. This was the early April episode. There's a brand new late April episode coming out in a couple of weeks' time. Then 2 in May, 2 in June, 2 in July. Well, you get the picture. There's lots of free gardening content. So why not subscribe to my channel? And if you turn on your notifications, we'll let you know when a new episode comes available. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your garden.